relationships.
Very important. It'll be interesting to see how all the social media evolves. Either you're in or you're out.
Exactly.
It's almost better if you just didn't even have a social media. I usually hear from at least one new client a day. When I make that appointment, make it so that I have plenty of time to be present.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be for you. Welcome to the Emerging Artist Podcast. I'm Scott Markowitz. I'm joined here with Shiree Ingram, and today we're going to be talking about relationships and how important relationships are to your art business. Hey Shiree, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you this morning, Scott?
Doing great, thank you. Relationships.
Very important. I know you and I have talked about it a little bit before, and I guess we've never talked before about how we know each other and how we met. So
yeah, it's a neat story, and it definitely ties into the topic today.
I think it began first being part of at the time it was called
Anchor.
The Anchor Moorings, and Gina is the owner of the magazine. I believe you probably got on board with her first.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. So Gina Russin runs the magazine. It was at the time called the Anchor Moorings magazine. Now it's called Stroll the Moorings. Same magazine, just new title. And when I first started my business, I got in touch with her because I was trying to make relationships. I was trying to build relationships. I didn't really know very many people in town. And this was an opportunity for me to get myself in front of other businesses in town here in Naples, Florida, because her magazine is all about that particular community in Naples and the different types of businesses that serve that community. It was just a no-brainer for me. She was able to give me a deal on advertising. But for me, it was more about the opportunity to get in front of other people.
Wonderful. And then I met her. She had reached out to me actually through social media. And she has a great personality and very funny, very likable. And I'd never advertised it actually in a magazine before. And it was perfect timing for me business-wise because I was wanting to make some transitions in my business and gravitate more towards selling my artwork. And so I could see possibly that being a better avenue and realizing that it had to do with getting my name out there more. I signed a 3-year contract with her, and in that they do, I believe it's 2 different sponsor stories, which is wonderful because you get a 2-page spread published. And so that's part of, it's not an extra charge, it's part of your contract. And so that's how I ended up meeting you, because you were the photographer for that first article. And what was that, maybe 3 years ago?
It was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was very excited because when Gina told me that I would be photographing an artist, I got very excited because I was like, oh, that's really cool that in this community, an artist would be advertising in the community magazine. And I was super excited to see your work and how you are going to present that in the magazine. So for me, it was a great learning lesson as well, because I was brand new to business at that time.
Yeah.
And here's a successful artist getting a 2-page spread in a high-end magazine here in Naples, Florida. And I was super excited about that. And having met you, it was really even more cool because you were so nice and down to earth.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You're that way, though.
It was definitely, for me, very inspiring to see, okay, as an artist, I'm going to be okay.
It's been an exciting journey, too. I didn't go into the advertising of it as, oh, I'm going to get a lot of work. Not that I don't need work, but I've lived here for almost 20 years. So relationships that have been built within just being part of this magazine has been incredible. And so there's so many things about knowing you that I would have never have even thought about doing. Like if we backed up to 3 years ago and you would have told me you and I'd be sitting in a studio doing podcasts together, or the video production of how to make the artwork and all that, I just never would have thought that this is where this path would have led. And it's just been really exciting. I'm really grateful that all this has turned out this way. And it's just been nothing but a positive experience.
Yeah, I think it's also a great thing to look at and examine and see the nature of relationships in general, because we as human beings, we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what's in the future. We can't look into that crystal ball. But what we can control is right now, like, how enthusiastically do we meet other people? And I think that's really the key to building relationships. I think it's about the enthusiasm that you bring to it. And it's about the enthusiasm about what it is that you do, and not necessarily about the business or the making of the money, right? That's the natural consequence of what you do. But I think when you enter into any new relationship, you should be more thinking about the value that you provide as an artist, as opposed to the money that you could be making as an artist, right? Because then when you're thinking about your work and you're thinking about your art, that just allows that enthusiasm to bubble up naturally, and people are attracted to that. It may not turn into a transaction right away, like for you and I. You know, you were a customer for the magazine, not for me, initially.
Right.
And I was just so excited to meet you, and I was so excited to work with you and to do my thing, which was to photograph you in the best way possible. You felt that enthusiasm, and we made a connection. And the world just has a way of eventually working those things out into other types of value. And it may not even be, like, down the road, it may not have been a contract with me to do video work, but maybe it would have been an introduction to somebody else who would want to do that. You never know how those relationships will turn into some kind of business or some kind of value for you. But I believe that if you always approach with enthusiasm, that eventually it will come back to you. Yeah.
No, I like that very much. There have been other people too with the magazine, The Stroll, that I've met and have been able to have a business relationship as well. And Zach the Tech, he's been amazing and helped me in a lot of ways with social media and with affiliate marketing. I do not necessarily have an interest in learning how to do myself, or could figure it out or do it. So it's better for me to go to work and get paid for what I do, and then pay the professionals in their own field to do the things for me that I need to have happen in my business life. And I think with your services and Zach and some others, that it really has elevated my business and helped it look more professional. And I know there's always constant things to tweak, and that who knows what all future things will come about.
That's true.
Yeah, it's been a nice process.
Yeah, I think I owe a lot to Gina as well, because not only did she introduce me to you, but there's so many of my clients that are on my current roster that have been introduced to me through that magazine and through that same exact kind of interaction. So for me, it was a little bit of a risk up front, because there was no direct monetary payment, but it was a very strategic thing for me to get connected with Gina, knowing that I was going to have the opportunity. And there's no guarantee that any of those relationships would turn into business. How about for you? Has Gina introduced you to other people as well?
She has, and we actually, a really cool experience over the last several months is that local designer, Sandra Walsh, who I met probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago. She had seen a mural of mine in town and contacted me. And so she has this client in the Moorings, the Ellinghausens, and they're just amazing people. And their home reflects their love for art and artists. They have a lot of commission pieces of art on canvas, but also just amazing lucite table that also was done by an artist in their home as well. And so as I'm doing some faux painting there for them, it dawns on me, oh, they're part of the Moorings. They probably get the Stroll magazine. And so I brought one with me one day, and I knew that Gina had been looking for people that live within the Moorings to be part of the magazine, because only residents actually can have articles that are written about them, or they themselves can write articles. And she's always looking for involvement by the residents. And so I showed them the magazine and explained a little bit how the magazine was formed, when the sponsors and all of us, our sponsorship helps pay for the production of the magazine, and that she needed somebody to do food critiquing at restaurants. And the Ellinghausens were so excited about it. They're like, we would totally be up for doing that. And he's like, and I'd also like to write something about, do some car reviews from time to time.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, so then at the same time, I got a hold of Gina and mentioned them, and that she also mentioned I have another 2-page spread coming up if I want to do it, and we could photograph
awesome.
their home. And also they're going to be part of an article themselves, and they'll be writing articles too. So it was a really exciting connection in relationships there. That's one of my most recent connection. Another one is James Council, that is my website designer. Mm-hmm. So how I know, I call him Jimmy, is actually through Diane Devant, her designer Priscilla. I've known for a long time, and Jimmy is her husband. And so one day I happened to be up in Stuart, Florida at their shop, and she just mentioned that he was building websites now and wanted to know, if I needed my website rebuilt and all that. And I have had my website rebuilt, I think 5 times in the last 20 years. And he's the 4th builder of the website, and he's the best. He is amazing. And I quite honestly did not have great success with the last 3. The first one was good. It took a lot of effort and time, but it took him almost a year to build it.
Oh, wow.
And the others, they never finished the websites completely where they were working that well. So Jimmy is 100% in and totally invested and committed to that. And what I like about him is that he has been able to branch out and do so many different things and willing to, that he really wasn't part of his repertoire for work, but so he does the ads for the Moorings for me. He puts those together, and then he's also connected with you.
Yeah.
And he helps in this production with the podcasts as well. And that he puts them all on platforms for listeners and manages the website constantly. So
yeah, James Council is Jimmy. He's really good. He's very professional, very thorough, and he has a very clean sense of design.
He does.
Yeah, it's very nice. And I have to admit, he is really also good at poking and prodding me and keeping me up to date on the stuff that I need to do. He'll give me a little reminder, hey, Scott, have you got those podcasts edited yet?
I didn't know that. Okay.
He's good. Yeah, he's good. I would recommend him.
Yeah.
If you have a website to do, he's very good.
His social media is Council Media Group. You can find him on Instagram at that.
Yeah, definitely worth giving him a shout out.
Yeah.
Council Media Group. Go check him out. And for the folks that are out there going, you know what? I'm good with the art. I'm good creating the product, but I'm not so sure about going out and meeting people. What advice would you give somebody that would help them to begin getting into the mode of building some good relationships for their business?
I guess first I will have to say I don't really consider myself that social of a person, and I do like to be alone. I'm a bit of a loner. And so I do have to push myself. So I think that's one thing to kind of, you may have to push yourself to do those things. And when I do, I always have a good time and I enjoy it. But initially, it may take some effort on my part to do that. And I think the first time you and I met professionally, we went to a local coffee shop and sat down. And that was a nice, relaxing atmosphere to be able to brainstorm about a lot of ideas. And it's just organically come about, being able to talk and being able to get to know people and being willing to open up a little bit and share some of your personal life with people. You don't have to tell them everything about you and your thoughts and feelings about everything, but just be willing to be able to share some personal things with people. And I'm that way with my clientele too. I have clients that I actually genuinely love, and they will text me and tell me they love me. And when you work in somebody's home for a month or more, or some projects can be a year long, off and on, and you see them all the time, and you see them in their pajamas in the morning drinking coffee, you can't help but not develop a relationship with them. And that is so important, to be able to have that more personal relationship with a person, so that, especially as artists, most people who are looking for your and my work want a referral from somebody else. And so I think from a business standpoint, it's very important to have those relationships and then to cultivate them, continue to, even when I have a client, I've done everything for them I can possibly do in the house. Everything is faux. There's nothing left to faux. And it's not all about that. It's check in from time to time. I'll call, or they'll reach out to me. I had one, actually, a client last night. It texted me at around 10:30 last night, just saying hi and want to go to lunch, and as just catch up. And that's so awesome. I think that's wonderful. But those are the clients that will refer you too, because they trust you. And so I think that is very important.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I think there's so much value in the relationship of your client. But I think, and you talked about this, as artists, we're introverted, a lot of us, and you said that you had to push yourself. What are ways that you push yourself? What are some things that you do specifically to push you up and out the door?
Well, one is I do like to keep my commitments to people. And so if I will make myself make an appointment with somebody, because rarely will I cancel that appointment. It would have to be something big going on in my life, or if I'm sick or something like that, that I would actually cancel it. So I think that is probably where it begins for me, is that I schedule that appointment.
Yeah. Oh, I love that, because it's the same thing for me going to the gym. Like, if I think about it, I can come up with 1,000 excuses why I shouldn't go to the gym.
Right.
You know, I'm so busy. I got this to do. But if I just put my sneakers on and get in the car and start heading there, I'm going to actually work out. And so it's the same exact thing of what you're describing. If you put it on your calendar, I think a lot of us are the same. If we put it on the calendar, okay, now it's a commitment.
Yeah.
And we're much better at fulfilling commitments to other people. We're not as good as artists fulfilling commitments to ourselves.
Oh, that's true.
Right? But we are pretty good at fulfilling the commitments we make to others, because most of us are people pleasers.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that totally.
So that's a good one. I love that. Just put it on the calendar, make the appointment. And one of the things that I like to do, Shiree, is I'll make it a game. So I belong to a B&I group here in Naples, Business Networking International.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it's a very structured networking group. It's not for everybody, and I probably wouldn't even recommend it for most artists. But the thing about it that I think we can all learn from is that as a member of this group, you're expected to have at least one meeting with another member every week. They call it a one-to-one. And they keep track of it for you. So if you have one of these meetings, you enter it into an application, and then everybody knows, okay, you fulfilled your obligation, because they have like monthly reports. I'm not crazy about that, but
as you're explaining it, I'm thinking, I know, I'm not signing up for
I think most artists would not care for the BNI experience. But I do appreciate the fact that for me, it's gamified. Oh, I have to score 4 one-to-one meetings every month. Mm-hmm. And if I don't do that, then I'm losing.
Okay. Yeah. You don't want to be able to.
I'm losing the BNI game. But I think that also works for me anyway, outside of BNI. So like I'll try to make at least one appointment with a BNI member every week. And I try to make at least one either coffee meeting or lunch meeting with somebody else every week. And that has served me very well. If it was something that I had to think about or spontaneously make that outreach and commitment, I probably wouldn't do it. But because I make it a game to myself, I have to score these 2 points every week. For me, at least, in my head, that works.
It's good. The other thing that I do try to do, because I usually hear from at least one new client a day, when I make that appointment, make it so that I have plenty of time to be present with them and focused only on them and their project, and not in a situation where I'm rushed and they don't feel like I care or have given them the time that's needed, because I do care very much about each individual person's project, and I want that to show. And even today, being here present in this moment and focusing solely on that takes a little bit of extra mental power for me to stay on task and not look at my phone and the text messages coming through. And that's another thing I do. When I get into a client's home, I turn my phone on silent and I don't answer my phone to be with them.
I think that's the best advice that anybody could give about relationship building. Being present, being there, like 100% focusing your attention on that other person. That's the best way to develop a relationship, especially when you first meet somebody, because that's rare. That's so rare to have that real, like, undivided attention from somebody, especially in today's day and age, when, how many people do you watch, like at the coffee shop, when they're sitting across from somebody else and they keep checking their phone or they're checking their laptop? I think it's very rare to really devote 100% of attention to somebody. And that is so huge in building trust with somebody. And that's what a relationship really is about. It's, if you have a relationship with somebody, it has to be founded in trust, and it has to be cultivated with trust. The other thing I would add to that, in addition to being 100% present with the other person, is to be super enthusiastic and positive with them, right? Because you can be present with somebody, but even if you are 100% focused, but you've got negative thoughts bubbling up in your mind, that's going to create some energy that the other person is going to pick up on. And they may not know why they're not feeling 100% comfortable talking to you, but they're going to feel it. And that might be a little woo-woo for some people, but like your mind, I do strongly believe that your mind like projects those frequencies that people can pick up on. It's like when somebody's looking at you and you just sense it and you turn and you catch their gaze staring at you. Like, how did you know that they were looking at you?
Yeah, you can feel it. You can sense it.
Yeah, so remaining positive and just keeping in the spirit of how can I be of service to this person? So it's not about like, you should never go into a meeting thinking, I'm gonna get some business out of this. At least I don't. At least for me, that's the way that
I agree.
Like that I operate. I think that it's always much better to go into any situation, meeting somebody new, thinking, this is an exciting opportunity for me to meet somebody new that has different experiences for me, and maybe we'll be able to help each other.
Yeah, that's cute. I have this, speaking of relationships, I have to mention Scott has 2 puppy dogs that have joined us for the podcast. And so Dexter is here with me right now and loves me very much. And Gabby, she was over here a bit, but I pet her too much and now she's asleep. Yeah, they're very sweet.
There's something.
They are very sweet.
So yeah, guys, if you hear a rattling in the background, just like that's one of the dogs.
That's what's going on. Yeah, they're very calming. Actually, it's very nice to pet the puppy dogs while we're having a podcast. Yeah.
Yes, what I've learned today, Shiree, is that before we start recording, I should probably spend at least 15 minutes playing with them. I took them for a walk around the entire block. That's almost a mile.
Before I got here?
Before you got here, I thought that would tire them out. That was not enough.
No, they were pretty excited when I got here.
Yeah. So I think maybe, you know what? Maybe you and I should spend like a couple minutes playing with them before we start recording, because they're like, hey,
somebody's new and we need to be pet, and we need to be pet now. Yeah, they're great.
We'll have to post some pictures of them.
Yeah,
for everybody
that would be
to
great.
See.
Yeah, we definitely need to do that. They're so sweet. I think too, when getting back to when we meet with people, when I was younger and first starting out in business and concerned over getting the actual work and it booked and a deposit and signed contract and all this business end of it going on in my head. And once I just stopped worrying about that, and I wasn't like trying to push faux on anybody, because I want the house to look wonderful and balanced and beautiful. And sometimes that doesn't mean faux painting. It could be just straight painting and just maybe even wallpaper. I hate to say that, but I want what's best for the client and what's best for their home. And taking the time to give the gift of listening and really paying attention to what they're talking about, I think is always a very good way to build relationships too. People are surprised when somebody truly listens to them.
Yeah.
And all of us are drawn to people that actually hear us and take into consideration what we're saying. And I think sometimes that can be a challenge when we live stressful lives and you have a lot of things going on in your mind, and to just try to really hard set those things aside and be present. It can be work for me, for sure. It's not that it obviously don't want to be present, but sometimes it does require, just because of things going on, it does require more effort.
Yeah. I'm very confident that every relationship that I build, at some point, there's going to be some kind of value for me back. So
there will be.
Yeah.
And one of the things, starting out in business and you're new, one of the things I've tried to encourage Leo and Michelle Perez, the couple that I've been coaching, they're brand new to this and developing their own relationships, and to check in with, so they have one designer that I introduced them to on the East Coast, and they did some work for her. And so it's good to keep in relative good contact on a regular basis with her. So maybe it's just maybe once a week, checking in, just a quick text message, maybe creating a new sample board or two, and just asking, send a text message or a phone call and ask if you could swing them by and drop off some sample boards, or send a picture of something, ask their opinion, so that when she has a project that she needs faux painting, they become the first people that she thinks about using. And so it's just this constant building. It requires effort on your part, and it's worth it.
So true. It's good to point out that it's an effort, because it really is. It does require energy. It does require your concentration, and especially for introverts, it's especially taxing, but it's so worth it. And it's so necessary. You can't really sell your work without having some form of relationship with somebody. Like, people have to know who you are. They need to know what you're about. They need to understand your artwork before they can ever think about hiring you. Now, sometimes that relationship can be built in some non-direct ways, like through social media. People can get to know you through advertising. They can get to know you. But depending on the type of business that you're in, most likely they're going to want to meet you in person before they sign a contract.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I did want to address a little bit the importance of having, like you said, relationships maybe through social media. There are several people actually that I've met through social media, through Instagram, that have followed me for years and have contacted me through messaging about my work. And so I think definitely investing in the time and energy that it takes to maintain social media, posting frequently. People want to see artists' content and see what they're doing and what new things they're doing. Gives them ideas. And I think there's downsides when you may struggle with not wanting to post if it's not something that you're that interested in doing. And so maybe you'll go months and months and not post anything, and then all of a sudden you decide in 1 week you ramp it up and you're posting a whole bunch of stuff in 1 week. What does that look like to a designer or a decorator or an interested person, a client maybe, that they see all this dead time and nothing, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of posts, and then you go through other periods where there's nothing again. They may wonder, does that person really work that much? So I wonder if they see such inconsistent posting, what does that tell your followers about you and about your business? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that definitely tells a story that you probably don't want told.
It could.
Yeah, that tells them that you are a little bit unorganized, and that can raise some flags for them. If they feel like you're too unorganized to be able to consistently post and handle your marketing.
Or you wouldn't have started in the first place. Yeah.
And if they consider that to be part of your business procedures, and you can't maintain a steady pattern to do that effectively, then they're going to think twice about, are you going to be able to follow through on my job? And it's a subtle thing, and they might not be thinking that consciously. That might be a subconscious thing that they go through. If you're trying to create that relationship online, you have to be just as present in those social media channels and just as accessible as you would be otherwise. So if people are DMing you, you want to make sure that you are getting back and responding quickly, as timely as you possibly can. And if you are reaching out to them through social media channels, you want to make sure that you conduct yourself professionally as well in those interactions, and that is consistent with the branding and with the messaging that you've been creating. I don't know. I mean, it's tough though. Like, as an artist, it's tough to maintain those social media channels, and it is definitely, it's definitely something that you have to make time for and devote time for, or just not do it. I think if you're not willing to keep a steady production and output, it's the same as not producing anything.
Either you're in or you're out.
Exactly.
It's almost better if you just didn't even have a social media. If you're not going to maintain it. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see as time goes on how all the social media evolves and what other things will be out there. And yeah, it's always constantly changing.
Totally. If you project far enough into the future, Shiree, let's say like 100 years from now, social media it'll just be beamed into people's heads. Like, without, you just have to think, who's my ideal client? You'll just think that, and then it'll automatically get transmitted into their minds that they should hire you.
That's funny.
Wonder how much that advertising would cost.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah. Thank you, Shiree, for sharing your thoughts about relationships. It's so important. And speaking of relationships, how can people get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
On my website, Shiree Nichole, ShireeNichole.com. And my social medias are all Shiree Nichole Designer Finishes or Shiree Nichole Art.
Awesome. And yeah, guys, if you want to learn more about what I do, please come on over to reinventionstudiolab.com. You can see what I'm up to, and that's probably the best way for you to see what I have cooking. Reinventionstudiolab.com. And Shiree, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Scott.
All right. Rock on.